Bill is in Connecticut, and Bill is a first-time caller, and he's waited patiently for us.
Are you gonna make Rich spring into action
Yes,
with
Rich.
his first time caller bell?
Yes. He's here. We go. Here's your here's your bell, Bill. There you go. Welcoming you for your first time here on Women of Grace Live. It's your debut. We're happy to have you. How are you doing today, Bill?
Good, Joanna and Jack. I'm happy to be here. Jack, I got to say, you look very sharp in that jacket today.
Thank you. Everybody is now racing out to YouTube.
Thank you, Bill, for that compliment to my husband. I think he looks dashing all of the time, but then again, I am not very, very objective about that.
I had a jacket like Johnette's picked out for today, but someone told me that
Oh, here we go.
someone told me that vertical lines would make me look thinner, and they lied.
Great.
What can we do for you, Bill?
My wife is considering leaving the church, and I was reading about the sacrament of matrimony and how it relates to the principle of indissolubility. And then I started to wonder, if the marital convent is properly understood in the context of ecclesial communion, wouldn't that mean that the conjugal act should actually reflect the Trinitarian love more than the domestic church, assuming the canonical form is in a state of sacramental grace?
Okay, so, well, let's talk about this. So, when we're talking about that covenant and the indissolubility of it, what God has joined together, let no man put asunder. We know that assumes that there are no impediments that exist at the time that the marriage was taking place, at the very beginning there. So we want to move forward with that. It doesn't really matter what happens afterwards, it matters with that. The conjugal embrace, I think that you're absolutely right, is a depiction of the Trinitarian life itself. And it is the representation of it, according to the theology of the body in John Paul II, is the husband's love for the wife and the wife's love for the husband is symbolic of the love between the Father and the Son that spirates the Holy Spirit. So this is why the church teaches that every conjugal act must be open to the possibility of life, whether life can be conceived or not at the moment in time when the two are coming together. So, so that conjugal union then produces the image of their love, who is the child, just as the Holy Spirit is the personification of the love of the Father for the Son and the Son's love for the Father. So, that is the reality of the marital embrace, and it's from that reality then that we derive this beautiful teaching about every act of needing to be open to the possibility for life, whether life can be conceived or not. So this is also why, we teach against contraception, but we don't teach against natural family planning, which is the identification of the fertile parts of the month when a woman can conceive, and remaining abstinent during that time, but making use of the marital embrace during a time where she's non-fertile, if for good reason a couple feels that they must forestall having a child for good reason, which is not because I want to buy a boat or a second house, but for good reason. But I don't think that I quite understand the other part of the question.
So, Bill, what you're really asking? Are you concerned that should your wife leave the church, that would take the marital embrace out of the equation for you?
More or less, but I mean, what I'm trying to understand mostly is how the theology of the body should be applied when the marital consent is taken into account. See, I was thinking, if the sacrament is guiding the indissolubility, should I be concerned about the potential for disparity of cult among the baptized faithful, especially during the process of convalidation? And does that change if we're considering a mixed marriage versus disparity of cult?
All right, but she was firmly within the folds of Holy Mother Church when you were married, correct?
Oh, definitely. But
Yeah.
there's the question of matrimonial consent as well.
Has she expressed any concrete reasons that she's making this consideration?
Well, I've been debating that and whether I should use a radical sanation or a formal act of defection when analyzing the impediments of our marriage.
Well, are you still married?
Yes.
Okay, and so what I'm asking you is, has she articulated to you the reasons that she is contemplating leaving the church?
No. Over the course of the past few months, there hasn't really been that many hints as to why. Do you think it might be? I don't know.
Well, I
There
think,
might be an
when we're
extra
talking about canonical form and radical sanation, I think we're getting the cart a little bit ahead of the horse here. Before we actually
Well, these
even.
are her words, not mine.
Yeah. Okay. This may be beyond our scope of expertise.
Yeah.
Well,
Because what I'm
I
trying to
appreciate you trying to help.
Yeah, what I'm trying to figure out, Bill, is what you're asking. Are you asking the question that if your wife should leave the church, how does that affect your capacity to come together as husband and wife in the marital embrace?
Yeah, if my wife decides to leave the church and I decide to integrate doctrines of covenant theology within a Thomistic framework, should I be worried about the additional ecclesial implications and the potential for doctrinal confusion if the sacramentality of the marriage isn't emphasized in the same way?
I think that I think you might be looking too deeply at this. Um, but I think that probably the best thing for you to do is to talk to a canonical lawyer of the church who can walk you through what your concerns might be. But since she's not left the church yet, my advice and counsel would be to continue to pray that whatever difficulty or struggle she's having at the moment with the church can be resolved without her leaving the church. So that's what I would hope for, since especially this seems to be something new and not long-standing. It's something that's come up in the last couple of months. So I would want to try to ferret out, well, where is this coming from and what is this rooted in and why are we looking in this direction before you
Okay.
jump to, what am I going to do if this happens?
Yeah, I would spend some time before the Blessed Sacrament would be the first thing I would do. The second thing I would probably do is to find a priest that you trust, preferably your pastor. I don't know what kind of a relationship you have with the pastor of your parish, and just sort of lay
Well,
this.
I talked to my parish priest, and right before his homily started exploring the significance of the wedding, he didn't account for my theological precision of the Council of Trent, so that's where we left off.
Okay. And then the other thing, as you're working through this, I think the biggest mistake you could make at this point would be to delegitimize her concerns. I think you need to acknowledge that these are clearly things that are stirring within her, and that you understand that, and that that you want to work through this together as a couple to whatever degree that you possibly can. But and again, I'm trying to. This might be a really good. This might be a really good question. If you could either call back at 2 p.m. Eastern Monday through Friday, or send an email to ctc@ewtn.com. That's Dr. David Anders from Call to Communion, who wrote the book on this to a certain extent. The Catholic Church Saved My Marriage is the book that he wrote, and he's kind of coming from a different perspective than you are, but a lot of these questions came into play for him, and he might be an outstanding resource for you in this working through this situation.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time and your insights. You've given me a lot to think about it. I appreciate your help, and I'll take all this into consideration. Have a wonderful day, the two of you.
Well, thank you,
Awesome.
and
You
you
too,
too.
Bill. Thanks.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Bill.
it.
God bless you. Bye-bye now. It's very difficult, isn't it, when these problems crop up after marriage? And I think one of the things